It is Meg from Love at First Search. I'm here today because I want to talk about local search. I think that there's been a big focus over the past couple weeks in the business community in general, but especially the online business community, trying to get every single business who could ever be online because we're in lockdown, right? Like today is April 30th. We're in lockdown. We have been for a couple weeks. And so there's been a big push for all local businesses to go online. I've been responding to that need and that inquiry. But today, things are starting to talk about opening up. And so I want to talk to my local business owners and say, maybe we can spend some time on our local search, try to get some people back into your businesses when you get back to work. So let's talk about it. What I want to talk about today is specifically what are the things that Google looks at in those local searches. And I'm going to pull up some local searches based on who's here in the group, and we'll take a look at what are the ranking factors and what are the things that Google is really looking for and what are the things that you can do on your site to help you get found in those local searches. So without further ado, let me name for you what the 8 things are that Google looks for. Now, this information comes not directly from Google. It's a white paper by Moz, which is an SEO research organization, a keyword research tool. It's got a lot of really great tools. And what they did is they did side-by-side comparisons of very similar sites and then made tiny tweaks to figure out exactly what are the things that Google is looking for local searches and for local maps views, because the things that Google looks for are different locally for searches that could end with the word near me, basically is what I'm talking about with local searches, than for expertise or content-based searches. So the way that it searches for like how tall is George Washington is very different than the things that it would rank would pay attention to for plumber near me. So what are the 8 things that Google looks at? They are 1, the information that you give it. So if you've set up a Google My Business account, you have one of the most important ways that Google gets information about your business. One of the ways that it can actually share and promote your website is to tell Google, here's what I do with your Google My Business account. The top factor for whether your website shows up on Google Maps is your Google My Business listing. That makes up about 25%, the information in your Google My Business listing and the way that people interact with your Google My Business listing makes up about 25% of whether or not you are the top rank or how Google decides to position you in those Google Maps piece. 2, the number of links that come into your site, those backlinks, those inbound links coming into your site. It looks at the number of links coming into your site, the authority and quality of links coming into your site. It looks at what are the words that people are using to link to you. So all of the links coming into your site are a major factor in whether Google promotes you or not. The reviews that you get to your site, how many are there? What are they talking about? How frequently do people post to your reviews? If they're giving you 5 stars or 1 star, that's obviously going to be a determining factor in whether or not Google recommends you. The more 5-star reviews and the fewer 1-star reviews you get, the more likely you'll show up in those searches. The information that's on your website, you'd think that would be higher, but it's not. What's the domain authority of your website? Making sure that your name, your address, your phone number are listed on your website is very important. When you want to show up in Google Maps, you need to say what your address is. Your citation signal shows up. So that's any time that somewhere else on the internet, someone shares where you are. So if you're in a local chamber of commerce, if you have a review on Yelp, if you're in any sort of directory listing that has the name of your business and how to get in touch with you, that's really important in Google Maps. The way that people behave on your site, if they see you show up in the search results and they click through to your website, then that will help your rank, whether they're on a desktop or a mobile. If they're checking into your website, if they're doing like Foursquare check-ins or saying that they are at your site, that will help you show up in Google search results. It's about 10% of your Google Maps listing where they are. is a key factor here. So if I'm looking for something like acupuncture near me, and I'm here in Rochester, New York, and you're trying to get found for acupuncture in Portland, Oregon, then there's not a lot that you can do to get yourself to show up in my search results based on where I am and what Google knows about me as the searcher. So that's a factor. And then the smallest factor in all of this, of our 8 ranking factors, 8, is social signals. So how are people engaging with you on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram? Especially if you have showed Google where you are, you've connected those social accounts to your Google My Business profile and said to them, this one's my LinkedIn account and this one's my Facebook page. If you tell it what you are, then it'll sort of pay attention if there's a lot of traffic on your site. But that's the smallest factor of these 8 factors that I listed off. So let's talk about them in order. I looked last night for Thai food near me. And so I saw, here's the Thai food restaurant in Henrietta, and here's the Thai food restaurant in Penfield, and here are these various Thai food restaurants. But then the first search result was Yelp. So here, let me explain why. That's because with Google Maps, they care about what's actually near you, who says that they're a Thai food restaurant in their Google My Business listings. The reviews show up more importantly in the Maps results because people want to be able to see those little 5 stars showing up on their maps. But then for the listings, the factor that's the most important is how many inbound links do those sites have. So Yelp as a directory has tons and tons and tons of domain authority within kind of the restaurant space. Same with like Open Table in the restaurant space would do really well. And that's why you see, or, sometimes you'll see a roundup post from a local media source showing up in those search results before you get to the actual businesses that you're looking for. It's really frustrating. I wish that weren't the way that it is, but that is what it is. So if there's a specific search that you want to show up for, and the first thing that shows up on there is an Open Table account or a Wedding Wire account or a Chamber of Commerce account or something like that, try to get yourself onto that list so that way at least you're represented in the top listing. I know it sucks, especially if the top listing in your industry is Yelp, and Yelp is so questionable in its morality. So I don't want to tell you to go set up an account on Yelp, but sometimes you got to play the game that everyone else is playing. And I feel shitty saying that to you guys, Yelp sucks. It's true, but it does show up first in those search listings, and that's how people can find you. So it is still an important factor, both between the links and the domain authority that Yelp has, and also the reviews that you're able to collect on there and help those reviews show up in your Google listing. Thankfully, Yelp is not the only review site out there anymore. There are a lot of places that are less dependent on Yelp, a lot of industries that are kind of expanding out. So, TripAdvisor or Home Advisor or House is really popular for architects and interior designers. If you're looking for residential design need, that's what'll show up first, is the Home Advisor and the House listings, and anything that has that local directory that also has domain authority, that will show up in the search results. So if you're looking for a window replacement near you, what shows up in your maps will be dependent on the Google My Business signals, the things that Google My Business says, the reviews, the links, and what's on your page. And then once you scroll down and see those actual search results, it's more dependent on the links coming into it and what's on your page and the way that people click through, and that the words on your website and your click-through rates from search. Those actually all are more important to Google organic local search results than what's on your Google My Business page. So you kind of got to balance out which is more important to spend your time on. But basically what I'm telling you is, if you're running a local business, get your Google My Business set up and try to get some backlinks into your site from high authority or local authorities, local media. Those 3 things that I just listed, 70% of whether or not Google is going to list you in those top 3, top 10 rankings on Google Maps. So all those things are super, super important. And then for the local search results, what's most important for them is the inbound links and domain authority, the words that are on your website, and whether people are actually clicking through to your page. in that order. So if you're getting a really great click-through rate from search results, then you might be able to climb a little bit of page rank, because people don't want to go to Yelp if they can go to the 4th or 5th result and actually find the companies that are fitting the needs of what they're looking for. Let me do a couple examples of how different rankings for local search are showing up and what that means for local businesses. So if you guys are watching and you have a local business and you want to talk about it, I see Cassie's here in the chat, and Cassie and I used to do yoga together. So let's do something like yoga studio near me and take a look at what this looks like, so I can kind of walk you through it a little bit better. So right now, the first thing that shows up here is a Google ad. It's like a hot yoga studio near me. And then when I look down here, I see what are the top 3 results that show up in search near me. There are plenty of yoga studios that are near me that aren't necessarily the top results. So you can see that it's not just proximity that is the ranking factor. It's not just the yoga studios that are closest to my home. It's about who has their Google My Business set up, who has good links coming into their site, who has the words yoga studio on their website and other relevant words, who has good reviews. Those are the top 4 things that Google looks at. It's not the ones that are closest to me. It's not even the ones that have the most reviews, because you can see that this one has 15 reviews, then 2, then 10. So it's not just the number of reviews, because the one that's ranking top for me has 4 stars instead of 5. So there's a lot of different factors at play here. So if you want to boost yourself up in Google Maps, the first thing that we want to do is make sure your Google My Business page is showing up. Otherwise, if you don't have a Google My Business page, you can't show up in Maps. End of story. There's nothing for them to share about you. So set up your Google My Business page. It's free. It's worth it, especially if you have a local business. If you are a visual brand, like if you're a local photographer, then instead of uploading 100 pictures at once and then not uploading for a year, upload to your Google My Business page like every 2 weeks instead. Put like 2 pictures every 2 weeks. If you have a promotion that you're running, you can add the promotion to your Google My Business page. So using it kind of as an additional marketing tool to try to get some links into your website from other high quality domains in your space. Try to get backlinks to your site, whether that is from, a directory listing like a citation tool, or, a local media outlet. If you're on podcasts, if you're in the local paper, try to get those media outlet links to your website. 3, get some reviews from your customers. That's huge. Getting high quality reviews from your customers. You want to collect reviews on your Google My Business page. If you're in the mental health space and you're not allowed to ask for reviews, then obviously don't. Break your Hippocratic oath or HIPAA compliance in order to show up in Google. I'm not trying to promote you doing that, but people can still leave you unsolicited reviews. You just can't ask for them. So I'm realizing now I should probably go leave a review for a therapist, just because I know that how important it is. So if you're in therapy or if you have a social worker, go leave a Google My Business page for them, because they can't ask you for one, but they can benefit from it. So there's my mental health tip of the day. And 4, make sure that the words that are on your website are in fact the ones that people are looking for. And then get those words that you want to be found for onto your website, because the on-page keywords, the things that are happening on your page, both the keywords and your location need to be on your website as part of your overall local search strategy. I audited a website for, I think it was a bookkeeper in Arizona, and she had pictures of cactuses, but she never said that she was in Arizona. She was handing out business cards to people, and the people that she was handing out business cards to that told them to go to her website, they were all in Arizona already. They didn't need to know that she had these offices in Phoenix or whatever. And so the cactuses were enough. But if she wants to get found by new people, cactuses won't do the job. You do actually have to say, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. And once you have your Google My Business page set up, pay attention to the way that your address is formatted and to the way that Google lists your phone number. And then make sure that those 3 things, your name, your address, and phone number, have the same formatting every time. It's called your NAP. So have your consistent NAP so that your name, your address, and phone number are the same everywhere. That actually does make a difference to have that consistent way that you are talking about how to get in touch with you and how to contact you. It can also help if you have a physical location, you embed a map from Google into your contact page, because that definitely confirms for Google. It also makes it easier for people to get directions to your physical location. So if that's a factor at play for you, if you have a storefront or a brick and mortar location, then definitely try to get a Google map onto your contact page or into your footer or somewhere on your page. Another cool thing if you have a brick and mortar business is that if people are in fact looking for driving directions to your location, then you can take a look at where they are coming from. So if you're a yoga studio and you can see, oh, people are mostly coming from 2 towns away. So if I want to open a new studio, that would be a good place to open it. So that can be a really good way to plan your marketing and plan any expansions, because you know where people are driving from, which is a really cool factor that you can get that information straight out of Google My Business. All right, you guys, if you have any questions, I would love to hear them, but I will keep this kind of short and sweet today.